Welcome back to the question and answer session, or as it has been dubbed, After Dark. Captain's Table After Dark, where we take questions from the chat.
You misspelled it here.
Did I?
It says after dark instead of after dark.
There you go. There you go.
What are you doing? I like that better.
Or as when Darsh is on, it's after Darsh. Instead of blame Darsh. So if you missed,
I don't have that shirt on today.
If you missed our session or earlier session, it'll be above Darsh's head there, where you can click that link and you can go watch us discuss about specifically agent smithing and other ways of reducing friction in Star Citizen. And today we're going to be taking questions from the chat. Let me pull out the first question, get right onto it. First question is from Simon Wolf, who asks, what is the latest on spawning on, quote, carrier, unquote, ships, like the Kraken and the Idris? Will all ships need to actually fly to one and always be physical, or can we spawn a ship as we do in the spaceport? Basically, because at one point they discussed the idea of being able to spawn in snub ships into snub hangars, like the Pisces into the Carrack and stuff like that. But I think it's a little different.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah, I don't.
What they've talked about is when you request a ship with a hangar, you can have your XL hangar at a space station or a landing zone. You request your Carrack, but it gives you the option to say, okay, I want to load this vehicle in the vehicle bay and this Pisces in the hangar, so that way they spawn with it. That way I don't have to spawn them via the separately and then load them up. As far as if they're asking about like, oh, I'm flying around in my Kraken out in the middle of space and I just want to randomly spawn a ship in the hangar, one of the two hangars on the Kraken, I don't think that'll ever be a thing.
Yeah. You can imagine that if you have landing services, they're not going to just cater to the ship they're spawning in a hangar. They're also going to, try to, get into the ship and put a Pisces in there or whatever it is. If you have one available from your ship list, sure. Yeah. But yeah, like I mentioned, just because the whole, the hangar swallowing up your ship, and basically despawning it and spawning a new one, sort of solves the issue of hangar services, having to always be physicalized and present. They can just do it in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That's a point of friction that CIG can do something about.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
it's a point of friction they've already done something about.
Yeah, because
halfway there.
You can just load out a ship, get stuff fixed up on it, and bring it back up. You don't have to like mess with loading it out on your own, all that kind of stuff. So, and they can get better at it.
Well, I mean the vehicle and vehicle spawning.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's. But then again, you become beholden to what CIG says. This is what can fit in this hangar.
Yes.
This is what can fit in this vehicle bay. You don't get to be like, oh, well, no, technically I was able to fit it in there. Well, the NPCs say you can't. So tough shit. If you want to do it, you can do that on your own.
The maximum capacity says 250 people. Could you get more than 250 people in that? Probably. Is it safe?
Sure.
No. So no manager
can say nope.
No manager is going to say yes. We're gonna just let that happen. The OSHA, the OSHA book OSHA says no. The OSHA book says no. So no. Spacia says no. Spacia handbook says no. So no.
Yeah, because like I could land a 100i in the Carrack hangar if I scrape on both front and rear windows, because it's just like 10 centimeters too long. But that technically you shouldn't. And I'm sad about that. Have been sad for a long time.
All right. The next question is from Ashhole, who asks, would it be better if the player needs a second game package to have a special NPC, which a friend could get Agent Smith into, when the friend isn't in it? It would just be an NPC that he hired. I mean, it's kind of what we've discussed about, but that is one of the old ideas, which we haven't heard about in a while. The idea that if you have multiple game packages on an account, that each of those game packages could be a custom NPC that you could use to your own liking. So instead of having to hire someone, you can get an NPC and they would be loyal to you and all that kind of stuff.
I get that. I just hate I'm going to spend real world money to give myself an in-game edge and, not have the con aspect of the pros and cons of NPC crew.
My theory on that is that much like Tavaran Kung Fu, it will never happen. It's something that they said as a
I
planned
would rather
feature.
have Tavaran Kung Fu than that.
I know, but I mean, there's going to be lots of things in this game where people are like, but you said, and CIG is going to go, games change and move on. I don't think there's some cases like that they'll never acknowledge it. They'll just never talk about it because they know that if they talk about it, or they'll give some other bonus for having multiple game packages, like you have more character slots or something like that. So it's a little bit.
I guess it just depends on if it was something that was sold or if it was a specifically stated stretch goal that, that they're kind of beholden to things. But there's dozens of stretch goals, so I can't remember all of them. But
it wasn't. It was just a mention of what they're planning on doing at one point.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like
there were
promise.
things that were like, hey, we this is something we might do. This is something that would be interesting to do. Yeah, that stuff is, up to the whims of the development. But and you can't hold those things. It's a false equivalency to say that's the same as something that was paid for or something that was guaranteed based off of this is a stretch goal. You get in legal hot water for that.
I still think CIG will probably have to do some sort of firefighting around that, because I'm sure there are people who heard that statement and immediately went out and purchased multiple game packages because they're like, I can get free NPCs. I'm just going to do this. And so there's at least a handful of people who will be like very, very pissed if CIG decides to renege on that. So, all right. Simon Wolf asks, so with fauna in the game, how far are we away with hashtag pledge goal reward pets? Huge moneymaker, yes? Yes.
Yes.
I think we're still away. It's probably a 1.0 or post 1.0 thing is pets, as much as I would love for it to be sooner, because we won't even get NPC crew. Then again, you don't really have to like command a pet. It just has to follow you around. Maybe.
Am I the only one who doesn't want them?
No.
Like people walking around with dogs following them.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not of that.
I love dogs. I'm a dog dad, but I don't know.
I get your point. Like I'm with that. I'm not really a big person of like I want a pet in game, but I also understand that pets are so popular. People would empty wallets for pets.
I get it.
So
I would too, probably.
Yeah.
What do you do with it though? What are you gonna do with it?
As a person who has purchased every single ATLS platform at least twice from CIG, I understand the goal. Like when CIG releases the Titan suit, I'm gonna have two of them. One for in case I need somebody else to have it to use it, or if one blows up, I just get in the other one because why not? Like if everybody
has their thing that they are weak in the knees for when it comes to monetization.
Yes.
It reminds me of a stat. Like in 2 years after the release of Ghost of Tsushima, the foxes were petted 57 million times by players. Players want pets. Yeah.
What do you do if you bring your dog on a ship and your ship blows up and your dog's dead?
Regen.
Death of a corgi should be a separate design document.
Regen. Easy.
Where's the sad trombone sound?
I will pay. I will pay for my space dog's regen before I pay for mine. Higher priority.
All right. Next question comes from.
Cats get actual 9 lives.
Listen, as an owner of 3 cats, my cats would survive the vacuum of space just to come back and spite me. My ship would blow up, and I'd wake up in the hangar. And there wouldn't even be a regen. They would just be there. They would just be in my hangar being like, feed me.
Regen technology is far more effective on space felines. Yeah. They're the only ones unaffected by the current crisis. We must study this.
The solution to it, yeah.
Shimpasta asks, we have heard a game for everyone is a game for no one. So who is Star Citizen for, and is it too early to tell? So this is.
I don't agree with that statement at all.
I
Not
agree.
at all.
Nah.
I personally agree with that statement. I don't think.
What?
I don't believe if you make a game that has mass appeal that it will end up being as good as a game that's built for purpose. You're gonna need to alienate some people in the way of making video games because you can't please everyone all the time. So
okay, well, I guess the devil is in the details on how you're describing it. Like if this game is game for people who like PvP, who like game mechanics like mining, who don't want to get involved. It's going to be farming and crap like that.
It has a wider appeal, I'm sure, but there's going to be somebody who is not going to enjoy this game because it doesn't meet their needs or in some way, shape, or form.
I agree with that. I guess
so it's not for
really
everyone.
Broad,
but it's not for everyone.
Saying,
it's not.
If you use that definition, then no game is ever going to be for everyone.
No, and that's
definitely no.
And that's there's a philosophy which was Arrowhead is famously said, but Lyrian Studios apparently went out and said the same thing. I think it's something that's becoming more popular amongst game devs, which is the saying a game for everyone is a game for no one, meaning that you have to make a game that has a purpose, that has a focus, that has a feel, and that is what it is. And I'm afraid
that's
personally,
so broad, though.
Yeah, because if you compromise on everything, you lose all your identity and character. You have to have a direction. You have to have a focus to your story, to your gameplay.
I think the focus in Star Citizen is a space game, but that has tangentially related service,
life in space
professions. Life in space. So you can mine, you can be a bounty hunter, you can be a spaceship fighter, you can be an FPS fighter. Those are different games. Some people like to fly. Some people like to do FPS. Some people like to do the mining stuff. And so if you say to me a game for everybody, that's what I think a game for everybody is. A game it's, it still has a core principle, but you've got other aspects of it that appeal to other people. Any game's got to have that. Any game like any RPG's got to have that basic appeal. But you're right. Yes. We're not going to have mages or magicians in this game.
Yeah.
So that's probably not the game for you. The people who usually use the argument you're talking about, typically from what I've seen, they bring it up because they don't think that people should be able to just go off and do something and not be disturbed by other players. You know?
Well, I use the argument because I can see in a lot of different ways. I know people who are like, this game needs to be, Tarkov in space, or the game needs to be DCS in space. That these sorts of like people who have this idea of this game has to be this that I've come up with, and are probably going to be disappointed when the game actually reaches the point where it's like it's not going to be. Like, I know a lot of people really are looking forward to exploration, and I've been saying for years, people are going to be disappointed with exploration when it comes out because it's not going to be the thing they thought it was going to be. It is going to be scanning gameplay, and that's it.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to be 100% of that thing that you specifically want or you're interested in. Because if you're really into salvage, you may decide to go play hard space shipbreakers. Sometimes more often than you do the salvage in Star Citizen. It's how loyal are you to that based off of how much does it fit that niche that you specifically want. And sometimes you're not going to get 100% of the people who play hard space shipbreakers for the salvage, because it doesn't give you as much, but it gives you some. If it gives you 70% of that experience, you're going to catch you're casting a wide net to catch more fish, but you're not going to catch all those fish all the time. And so it's it's a it makes sense for what CIG is trying to do and have a game with broad appeal, but you're not going to beat games that excel in a very specific niche in that in their own arena.
Well, the
but
question
it should still be
I
in
do
the
agree with the
context
adage
of
that you won't be able to please
space
everybody.
travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question, let's answer the question, because the question is basically, if you can't please everybody, then who is Star Citizen for, or is it too early to tell? Personally, I think Star Citizen is for people who are seeking a sandbox experience with a lot of freedom. That's it. Like the freedom to be able to be a miner in space. Yeah.
But that's
a sci-fi sandbox
people,
experience.
Yeah, you know? I know a lot of people who have a zero interest in space, but huge interest in fantasy or modern settings.
Yeah.
Just by the nature of it being a space game, you're not going to cater to everyone.
And there are going to be some solutions where I think they're going to water down some of the processes. So like I don't think we're going to see hyper realistic farming. I think we're going to see a gameplay loop that will be a gameplay loop that is farming. Will it be, farm simulator style? Probably not. It'll probably be simplified. You brought up Hard Space Shipbreaker. Star Citizen is never going to be as detailed as Hard Space Shipbreaker. It is always going to be Hard Space Shipbreaker light, because they just can't support that sort of level of detail and granularity.
They're not going to be, they're not going to have the same level of sim as the games that specifically simulate those things. But there's enough things that are simulated well enough that they'll attract enough people to play it, because it allows you to do that in an environment that you don't get literally anywhere. And people are like, oh well, it's a niche game because most people flying spaceships is niche, and it's like, why do you think CIG is incorporating so much FPS content and non-spaceship flight related content and making the majority of the space flight experience so approachable? Because they're trying to cast a wide net, not just to people who want 6 degrees of freedom, space flight. If you're not interested in doing that hardcore space flight, you don't need to experience 90% of the game. It's an option, but it's not going to obstruct you from enjoying the gameplay that you want. Like, I'm not that pilot. I am not that guy. I'm here for the FPS combat, and FPS medical eventually.
Squadron 42 is going to be a lot more restrictive game when it comes to that than Star Citizen itself.
Yeah. You going to say something, Andy? I thought you were about to.
Nope.
Okay. Nope. All right. Shimpasta asks, or it's the one I just answered. Lady Space Patrol. Nope, that wasn't a question. Steve did answer asks, what do each of you think about the coming of 4.2/Invictus tech and ships? I'm going to start off by saying I am the person who will always go, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to be brave and make bold predictions, no matter if I'm right or wrong. With 4.2, I have no goddamn idea. I couldn't tell you anything other than maybe the Perseus. And even then, I don't know if the Perseus is going to make it.
What ships do we
not just the ships, but game tech, which fixes.
There's a couple of ways to look at it. If they're going with the content route, you could suggest that maybe they'll come out with Nix. Maybe.
Yeah,
and I think that's a stretch or a wish list.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say that is because technically there's no new game mechanics in there. It's just more content. It's more area. They already have the jump gates. They already had Nixon at one point or another. I just don't know whether or not it's done.
Yeah, that's the key. And I think we're going to require more than just done. It's also going to require the factions, the faction armor, because we have the Moraine is the other major faction in the system. We haven't beyond their text. We haven't seen who their leaders are, where they are, the bases they're supposed to be operating out of, their armor, their clothing, anything like that, which is typically what CIG would have done by now. So,
you know what I would love to see them do if they want to introduce content? Put out a system that's not listed that you can discover somehow that has nothing on it, no POI, an undiscovered system. It's just generated entirely by script. Well, if you did it entirely by scripting, if their new planet tech is really as good as they hope it to be, where they can just give it some basic baseline characteristics for the planet, say here, make it a make it a water world or make it a a desert planet or some other crap like that, and just script it. That might be a low hanging fruit option for them to introduce new territories for people to go exploring on, and maybe mine and other stuff.
I think it'll happen, but only a couple times within the lifespan of Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Because realistically, that's how often it's happened in the lore.
Yeah. And lore is a good
did
example of
segment on that, of how often we find new systems, and how there are some times where new systems and new jump points to new systems are found, and no one turns it into the UEE because it's more beneficial to them for whatever reasons to not share that information. Yeah, whether you're a pirate or you're a hauler, but
I'm getting a little off topic with this, but like they said they were going to do this. That was part of the mechanics, that if you discovered a system, you would get to name it. Chris said that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's
going to happen at some point.
That's my problem about stars, about people expecting exploration, because Chris kept talking about stuff like that, and people were like, "Cool, so I can discover. I'm going to buy my character, and I'm going to go discover a jump point, and I'm going to discover a new system."
No,
and
it's like two people.
Two people will do that, and I think that's setting improper expectations. Because, like, I'll say this right now.
Two people will win the lottery within the lifespan of Star Citizen.
Yeah.
I hope that's wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised.
I think the actual exploration is going to be a lot more. Have you ever had those moments in a video game where you just stop and go, "Damn, this is pretty"? You just sort of sit there and go,
"Yeah, it was Star
Citizen." It happens a lot with Star Citizen, but there are other games that where I've happened where, like, the sun hits the right way and you're just in the right place and you're just like, this is cool. That's what's going to happen with exploration. It's going to be, you go to a planet, you sit down on the planet, you set down some probes, and then you kind of take your vehicle and you drive 10 meters this way or whatever, or 10 kilometers this way, go there, drop another probe and go to another place, and maybe go up a mountain and drop a probe down and set up your scanning system, and then you wait for the data to download, and while you're doing it, you're looking around and you're like, wow, this is a forest. There's a Marok flying, and you can see some Copians walking around, and a boreal stalker, hanging around, maybe a couple of Kazi grazers walking around, and be like, this is beautiful. I think that's really what exploration gameplay is going to be. It's going to be little things, but it's mostly going to be finding cool places that you can see, like a lot
more
of more
Wild West than industrial exploration.
Yeah, more
and finding getting detailed scan data, because everybody thinks that because we've got all these systems mapped, that therefore everything in the system is explored, and it's like, no, that's not true at all.
No.
Right.
The majority of
planets are going to be.
Okay, here's an intrusive thought that I have to get out. Could you monetize pretty?
Mm-hmm.
Monetize.
Could you sell
game money?
Find a location that has a beautiful sunset, and landscape, and say, yes, I found this
people
location.
Want to build a house, and they want to build a house on a cool mountain. Absolutely, you could. Yeah, like I'm waiting for what's the planet with the
space tourism is a
Terra.
game loop.
I want my house on the beach in that world in Terra. I'm looking forward to that. I want to be able to find a really cool spot to have a cool luxury vacation home in Star Citizen, as lame as that sounds. And if somebody could scouted out a location ahead of time, found it and sold it to me, they had a picture of it and they sold it on a player market with a player marker, said, here's a picture of it, you can buy this, I'll sell you the location marker, I would absolutely do it.
Real estate sales.
Yeah.
Okay, apparently I'm much louder than
circling
people,
back to
what's that website
too much
that
louder
keeps
than the other two to me.
Well, yeah,
no, website that keeps gobbling up real estate.
Zillow.
Oh.
Zillow, yeah.
Or BlackRock.
But
oh god.
But back to 4.2, and someone mentioned it that Invictus launch week will not be 4.2.
It might not
it'll
be.
It'll be 4.1.1, 4.1.2. It's always a .1 patch.
Almost certainly it's going to be a 0.1, if not a 0.2, because 0.1, because April is 4.1, May is going to be 4.1.1, and May is when Invictus is. So, but they may also have another patch between, because beginning of May versus end of May is a different thing, and Invictus is at the end of May. So we might have a 4.1.2, which is just the Invictus stuff.
Yeah, it's just like we've had, .x patch, or not even .x patches, but .0.x patches, already.
Mhm.
It won't be it's never a whole numbered patch,
No.
but I think in regards to 4.2, based off of how much they have reiterated that they haven't done a major pull from the main dev branch in a while. I think that's when we're finally going to see that. We'll have essentially 2-3 quarters worth of development and additions to one branch, the 4.0 branch at that point. Because we've been on the 4.0 branch since 3.2.4, 3.2.4.2, right? So
Yeah.
we will have been on that same branch for a long time, and I think that's 4.2 is when we're finally going to see a pull where they've had, and we're probably going to start seeing stuff from that getting tested, in
I think more accurately, you say we've been on the 3.24.2 branch
Yes.
since 3.24.2.
Yeah. 'Cause-
yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Because it's 4.0 is the same branch with server meshing, but I think that's, at that point is where we'll probably start seeing it, during the 4.1 patch cycle, where they start to test the things, in the what they call it. Is it EPTU or where?
Yeah.
I
It's
forget
the
the verbiage.
EPTU. Is what they're using.
Yeah. I think that's when we're going to start seeing that, is during this next 3-month period where we start testing that new branch in EPTU leading up to its release,
In like
but
June.
testing it in segments.
Yeah.
Yeah. June, July, the normal point, the second major patch of the year.
Mhm.
a roadmap, sort of at least predictive column will happen before that, though, right?
Yes.
Or is it about the same time?
It'll probably be in the next 2 weeks because we just had a roadmap roundup. So we might have an update to 4.2's column in
I think
mid-April.
that's when we see engineering.
Yeah.
I hope so. That would be
Engineering
fun. I'd
was
like to see
meant
something.
engineering was meant for 4.0. It was built within this branch that we're in right now, and so it's it's one of those things where it just needs more testing and refinement in order to get the stability bar where they want it to. And I think that is probably going to be the big thing for 4.2. I don't think that they're going to incorporate engineering and another big
Right.
feature
Right.
like the holistic radar and scanning, is a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to incorporate, and like Yogi just talked about this, and we're going to talk about this on my show here later. But the whole, they're not introducing new quantum travel and the control surfaces, all that separately. That is a holistic package. That's not going to come on at the same time as engineering. I think that will be with the next major
Quantum drive and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
but the next major pull from the main branch,
Mhm.
because I think towards the end of this year, because this year is us, partly them finishing up the things that were meant for 4.0, but also getting in the things that need to bring Star Citizen to feature parity with Squadron, because they are not going to launch Squadron with a different feature set than we have in Star Citizen. You're not going to play Squadron and then go play Star Citizen and be like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't work the same.
Yeah. But the flight mechanics, I think, might end up being a little different, just because nature of iteration versus nature of like you have a goal, like because they're going to hit that 6-month period where they have to release it in the next 6 months, and they're going to lock that down so that they can absolutely make sure it works. And
Yeah, but the problem is, are they really going to be able to lock it down?
Different.
Yeah.
If they don't do it careful, they could end up having to maintain 2 co-branches, one for Squadron and one for Star Citizen.
I think
don't know.
I think
that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that I found interesting, Paul, because you've talked about this for years, and it still rings true. But like, Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are the same game, but right now they're different games, because Squadron 42 is running off of Star Citizen 4.4.
Yeah.
4.5, essentially, when it comes to what features it has and how you play the game. And we're still back here on 4.0.
Technically,
they're
we're
testing,
we're at 324.2, kind of thing. So 4.0.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um,
We got to get to
I-
here before this launches, because I do not think for a second that they're going to have the two games be functionally so different as they are
all
right
right,
now.
tree. All right, okay. So they launch this the same time, and Squadron is finalized and launches, but then Star Citizen keeps going
That's
and
my
keeps
point.
going
Yeah.
and keeps going. What happens? Do you
Well,
continually update Squadron to maintain parity with not in
the
content but with gameplay specifics, or do you
part of
keep it
the Star
at
Citizen
this
part
older?
goes ahead
Yeah.
because it's things that aren't part of Squadron. So they're like the engineering, like what we have for multi-crew is not really part of Squadron. Crafting,
Yeah.
as we know it right now,
So it
those
would
are
be
things
only
that
feature sets that would that are
share.
not completely military or have to do with just a pilot on a carrier
Yeah.
that would
Well,
get
and
updated. But there could be stuff that pertains to to actor status and medical stuff that all of a
yep.
sudden need to be updated for Star Citizen, but would that be have to be retro updated for Squadron?
I don't know if that's a add to episode 2 or what, but
that's
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. Is that I don't see it happening. I see
No.
I see Squadron 42 getting some updates here and there, just to kind of fix bugs and maybe
Bug fixes.
maybe an expansion pack of some kind, so you can expand like a few things here and there, maybe some more side missions or something. But
Because if nothing else, the speedrunners are going to hate it because they are very
Admiral
particular
Kusanagi, I
about a
don't think
feature set.
1.0 is
Yeah.
Squadron 42. That's not what I mean.
no,
I mean that the things that are in Squadron 42 that we are shared for Star Citizen will be in at the same time.
yes,
But there's a gazillion things on the 1.0 list that have nothing to do with Squadron
you don't.
that will be
1.0 has like, oh gosh, what was I to say? Like building ships. You don't need to build ships in Squadron, and that's not going to be in game by the time Squadron is released. Like the full base building and crafting loops aren't going to be fully implemented, that kind of thing. So
Bounty hunting.
But
Yeah.
the major things are
investigation
the
missions.
quantum travel and flight model, the complete EVA push pull mechanic, and all that goes with that, and then the radar and scanning, which is holistic system, both vehicle and FPS. All of that is in Squadron. It is part of Squadron. They are testing it, and they need to bring it over
like
to us.
contextually, it's part of Squadron. Yeah. Not just.
I wonder if Planet Tech
gameplay.
V5 is going to be part of Squadron.
That's a good question.
No.
I don't think so, because like the I think the planets of Squad 42 are bespoke. Like they built them specifically for Squadron, which is one of the reasons why we're not getting.
Sure, but there's still some technologies like texture tiling and weather that aren't bespoke, that they're a systemic, and those could get updated. Sure, yeah.
Sure, but I see that as like a post-release feature, where like, oh, you added weather to the game, come fly through it, kind of thing.
Well, and like Scissorfuss said, the weather that's you might experience in different scenes in Squadron is scripted. They don't want it to be dynamic.
Yeah, this is true. Just because it could be like an actor that drives the story in a certain way. Yeah.
But then there's Vulcan too. They're not going to have Vulcan be the default render for Squadron and then not be working and the default render providing the same level of performance in Star Citizen.
Yeah. They both have to.
I don't see that happening.
All right, let's move on to the next question, which is
big tangent.
Steve the Dancer asks, "How is everyone today?" I'm good. A little tired, but good.
Good.
You good?
I'm good.
I'm fucking
Bit
tired.
hungry.
I was up all night at work.
Yeah.
I had a 9-hour long transport, and then we were back for like an hour and a half of sleep, and then did another 5-hour long transport. And yeah, I still have paperwork to do, so you know,
Oof.
I'll be going to bed right after Pathfinders is done tonight and sleeping for 10, 11 hours.
Scissors Fun asks, would adding more beds or safe logout locations to points of interest around the verse help with friction of playing with friends? I think we already answered
Maybe.
that one, maybe, but I think the real solution is just give us persistence. Give us, when I log out in a place and I log back in, I'm in the same place, with exceptions like CZs or maybe some places where you just get teleported out or whatever after the fact. There needs to be some sort of solution to that. Yeah.
I think that it's fine to have locations of significance allow you to bed log. Like if you decide to go into the mines at one of the distribution centers, because they're not all just going to be logistics hubs. Eventually they're going to be tied into caves where you can go mine and you can essentially be a miner and work there. And I think it's fine to be able to bed log there. The equivalent of what a station can do, but on a planetside location. But I don't think you should be able to bed log at an outpost that you wake up at that outpost and it's in the middle of a running gunfight with 24 players and 40 NPCs. A sprinkling of planet side safe zones that aren't necessarily landing zones and space stations, but I think that could be possible eventually.
Yeah, unless the game just sort of takes control of you and transports you to a safe, if viable, a safe zone to log out. But that would mean that you're not dropping into an active combat zone, but just safely outside its radius.
And Flymo points this out as well, is that a lot of these questions are also going to be answered because right now, players can't see past the bugs. Players have such short range vision that they're like, well, I can't. Like, I've been watching the chat and seeing people being like, well, the way that they fix the remove friction is let me log into the goddamn game, or why are we talking about this when the game doesn't even fucking work for me, kind of thing. And which is a comment you see all the time, especially since right now Star Citizen's in degraded state because they just released 4.1 because they needed to hit time. Let's go hit time, and now they're trying to fix the bugs after the fact and fix some of those problems, which I'm sure they will. Just like 4.0.1 and 0.2 they did.
Always
same thing.
do.
They always do.
Time. People act like this doesn't happen every single time.
And it's getting better. Like the current.
It is. Yeah.
Yes, there are some issues with logging in, but like it'll probably be fixed by like the next week sort of situation. It just sucks that it's in the first weekend, but it's one of those things where
it's not unique to Star Citizen. So welcome to online gaming for the past 20 plus years.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing, is that sort of mentality is currently here. So when you try to discuss anything beyond fix the game now, people don't see that. So when they see a solution, they're like, okay, well, the problem is I can't meet with my friends. How can I fix that problem right now? Instead of being like, hey, this should be fixed in like the future once there's less bugs. This is how we fix this problem. So maybe having beds everywhere to log out isn't the solution, because that's a solution for a now problem, not for the game without those current bugs that are friction. So
we need to come up with a term to describe that. Bug-sidedness.
Yeah, bug-sidedness is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Broken.
What would be
alpha sight?
Good equivalent of myopia?
Alpha sight.
Alpha sight. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Alien Anderson asks, could Arena Commander be a tier 0 or replace the need for a skiff to Agent Smith if there were contested zones and events playable in Arena Commander without rewards? I mean,
lore-wise, they don't want to do that because Arena Commander has always been like these famous things that a gaming company has recreated in a video game inside the Star Citizen universe.
And don't get me wrong, I want to see Siege of Orison as a map you can play in Squad 42 or not Squad 42 in Arena Commander. I want to play whenever. Just bring people on and just go do that, because that feels like a good use of those resources, but it's not ready.
When that was something that when they were doing all that work for Arena Commander, they specifically made it so that way they could take in-game locations very quickly and easily
Yeah,
and put them in
this
your
is
Arena
also
Commander.
true. Yeah.
They'd already doing that. They did that with this patch. They brought another in-game location in, so.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from
So
Shimpasta.
potentially, yes, it could be. Yeah.
Potentially, but I also think that it's a matter of priority. Like, that's not something that I could see CIG doing like extensively, because like one of the things about CZs is that they require you to leave the CZ and go to another place and get codes like specific key cards and then come back. That's part of the whole experience. So,
I do like the
Yeah.
idea of, if they have all these things that they can add to Arena Commander, they can have this big library of maps or events that they can move on with the fiction of Star Citizen and not run that event in the universe again, but you can experience it with just like the Arena Commander maps that we have now. Those were in universe events that occurred. And okay, well, I didn't start playing until the game was 5 years after release, and I heard that this was super cool and like to experience. Sweet, you can go do a curated version of that in Arena Commander, just like those events that are part of the maps in Arena Commander, the legacy ones that we have now. If that
Yeah,
makes sense,
that's yeah. I like that.
it might not be like exactly how we experienced it in universe, but
Yeah.
somebody put this
and
into the
if you
Arena
want to
Commander
build
video
up your
game.
rep with a certain organization or a corporation, yeah.
all right. Next question comes from Shimpasta, who asks, question: do we have to put the word question in brackets, or can we just use the word question without brackets? And is it case sensitive? It's not case sensitive. You don't have to put the brackets in there. Anytime you say you put question in a sentence, it'll pick it up. But I ask you to do the brackets because it's easier for me to figure out the difference between someone just asking the question, that's a good question, and saying question, blah 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 blah. Like I said earlier, we had the bot caught a statement from Lady Space Patrol who said, when I see Star Citizen compared to Tarkov, I must question whether those doing that have really played many MMOs. That wasn't a question. That was a statement that she used question in. So that's why.
Damn it, bot.
But it's imprecise, but it allows for a wide variety of people asking questions for that stuff. So, next question comes
to be
from,
or not to be, that is the answer.
the next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, what ship or ships are you each looking forward to? Obviously, I'm looking forward to the TAC and the Perseus and the Ironclad, but I don't know. Those are the three big ones, I guess.
Galaxy for
Are
me.
we talking about the one? Are we talking about specifically the ones that were in the silhouette or that we know are coming? Or
I think
just in general?
Just in general.
Just in general.
How about you, Tree?
Well, Legionnaire, sad boarding marine noises.
Yeah.
But
sad door kicking noises. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I want it very badly. I'm still hopeful that it will fit in the Polaris. We shall see. I think that would be a really fun combo. After that, the Apollo, which is something that I think everybody assumes one of the silhouetted ships is. I think it's pretty close to a match for, I forget which one, but everybody in chat should probably know what I'm talking about. I want the ship because I own it and I love. I even in its current state, I love medical gameplay. I don't want to get my hopes up for more medical gameplay coming with the Apollo, and they haven't been talking about it, so it's like, I hate the idea of my ship that I really want to do that not coming with more medical gameplay, or having to, we released it based off what we have right now, and now we have to go back and
fix it after the fact.
Rework stuff later.
You need to do a medical gameplay video. I'm curious to know what you would like to see in medical gameplay.
Oh boy, I've done long form shows about it a couple of times that are on.
I'll go look. I'll go look.
They're on my channel, but I got lots of thoughts, and what the crazy thing is, people don't realize there is so much fucking lore behind it that stuff that they put out about medical gameplay and their intentions and regen that people just don't even know exists.
Yeah.
What I want,
They don't
what I
watch
want to
Paul.
see,
That's the
yeah.
problem.
What I want to
Fix
see is
yourselves.
more ships that have medical that isn't, but they're not medical ships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have medical for its own crew.
Medical capabilities, like a medi
Yeah,
bay.
so like the Carrack does and the Polaris does, but those are big ships, right? The 890 does.
The TAC has it too. It's got a tier 2 bed on it, so, and it's a small one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more of that, but just a medical bed for the crew, not to serve as a medical facility as a support ship. That kind of stuff, but for more ships that aren't just big.
It's spreading, Paul. It's spreading.
Yeah, I know. All right, next question.
I'm fighting very hard.
I didn't get my answer.
Go ahead.
Kraken, Javelin, or Idris? I'm a big ship guy. I like big ships, and I cannot lie.
All right, next question comes from Stakeroo, who asks, "What do you think a down system where somebody downs you but still can't be looted, but or downs you can still be looted but can't be fully killed, but there's a limit on how many times you can be in this state?" Oh, so kind of like Daisy has the system where you can be knocked down, and if nobody kills you, within a few minutes you can regain consciousness, and then you can patch yourself up and move and stuff like that. So
if that's the case, I want it attached to an item that you carry and equip,
like an auto stim or something like that.
Yep, that is a sci-fi trope that you get downed and the suit recognizes you have an injury and does some basic essentially self-injects a medipen. That should be a thing that you can equip and takes up space, a slot on your armor.
Or maybe a specialized undersuit would have that.
Yeah. Some form of function of
like a survivor's undersuit instead of like a pilot undersuit that's good for G-forces. This one would have like automatic, like limited medical capabilities.
Yep, it doesn't have. You can either take this slot and you can use it for the suit scanner ping thing, or you can put an auto injector whatever in it. Blizzrad, Jesus Christ.
Though I don't like the idea of a system where you can't kill somebody. If someone's downed, you can't kill them, and they have certain number of ups and downs. I don't like that system. That system seems too arbitrary. Yeah,
becomes arbitrary is a good word.
Yeah, the whole point of not murdering someone should be reputation. And that's it. Like, the CIG hasn't been subtle about it. Like, if they're,
there's a lot different. There's a lot difference between knocking someone down in combat and then deciding to double tap them in the head after you've shot them, and they're harmless. That should be respected. In that
I think consequence for that is a better way to solve it. Ashes of Creation has this thing where if you kill somebody and you instigated the fight and you kill a player and they haven't done anything to you, you get what they call corruption, which basically means you got a giant red flag on your head. Everybody can come over and kill you, and you are going to drop something you're equipped with. So even if you have your favorite gear, your favorite weapon, or your favorite armor, or whatever, if you get killed, and you will because everybody's going to come after you, you will lose one of your pieces.
I think one of the easiest solutions to a lot of this is right now. We had a solution in the past. You decide to go attack somebody, and they put a crime set on you. Well, now you've got a PvP bounty on you. We don't have PvP bounties right now. And I'm like, when I found out we don't have PvP bounties, I'm like, that's the reason why people are having problems with murder hobos all the time, is because we don't have PvP bounties, where these people would be hunted down.
I agree.
Because those people, like, as much as people are like, well, these people are only here to lick the salty tears off of people who don't want to fight. It's like, well, that's what the PvP
could make
bounty
it a
is.
significant bounty, and their lives would be short, and they would feel those repercussions.
And those players would be like, I enjoy the salty tears of the murder hobos, because they They want to hunt man, you know.
Yeah.
But is the bounty over once they get caught or killed once, or is it like a repeat thing? Then you're then the anti-griefing griefer.
It's only once, but when you kill them, they go to jail. So like that's the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know there's not much of a law system yet, but that's something we had in the game before 4.0, and it is not in the game right now. If it was in the game, it would mitigate some of that behavior because, you know, people would immediately like, oh, I'm getting hunted, I'm going to log off. So they would actively avoid attacking, doing their behavior. The second they knew they were being hunted, they would leave, which would prevent them from doing their actions. And you can't just flee to Pyro because Pyro, they can still chase after you in Pyro and get that bounty because that's when they have the bounty. So,
Yeah.
When in this instance, like, you know, and I talked about NPCs recovering you, I don't feel like, okay, well, there's hostiles around you right now. Instead of you just being murdered and dying, I feel like you should have the option of, you know, it, you can instead of dying, you know, they didn't murder you, so you're not all the way dead, but no one's going to come in and, you know, they're not going to send in NPC trauma team that the player can just continue to, you know, spawn camp the spawn closet or whatever for the NPC trauma teams. You know, there should be a point where, okay, you can loot that player and you can loot their stuff, you know, and if the player chooses, they can pay to be, you know, it essentially fakes the, oh, we've come in there, we've extracted you from the environment, and we either take you to the hospital or you wake up in the med bed of the Cutlass Red 5 kilometers away.
Mhm.
You know, and you're not all the way back, you know, but you've got your tier 3 injuries healed and you're rezzed, and that's it. Oops.
But only after you get
something to
towed
that
out of the
extent.
environment. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you get towed out of the environment, you know, and you can't just continually get, you know, res, you know, the offending player shoots you and you get back up, and then the NPCs, well, god damn it, you know, god damn it, and just recycle it, you know, none of that.
All right.
Not even Chad is getting my reference. I'm disappointed.
I got it. I got your reference.
You got
The
it?
Daisy one?
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
No, because the front fell off.
Oh no, never mind.
I
Sorry.
don't get the reference.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just after this, go into YouTube and just type in "the front fell off."
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Next question comes from
It's a
Shimpasta.
classic.
We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12. I stopped this question bot like 15 minutes ago. So that's why I wanted to make sure. So we've got 12 questions. We should be able to get through most of these pretty quickly, though, because most of them,
Lightning round.
well, sort of lightning round. Some
I
of them,
remember the reference.
some of them
there
are, some of them are a little bit longer. Some of them are smaller. Like, for instance, Escape asks, off topic, like Battletech, how about Battletech Gothic? Which is cool. For those of you who haven't got a chance to check it out, Battletech.
Oh, I did see the video for that.
They're doing a brand new series of alternate universes for BattleTech, which all have their own games that are set with the same sort of rules but slightly different. So BattleTech Gothic is the grimdark take on BattleTech. It's BattleTech if you 40K'd it. But then they also have one that's going to be anime, where it's going to be Gundam BattleTech, and there's going to be one that's World War II. So it's BattleTech 1942 is what it's called. So it's like World War II, but with mechs. But it's all the same system. So they announced a lot of these. The first big one they announced and released was Gothic, which was released at Adepticon this last weekend. So
I am completely out of that sphere, so none of that means anything to me. So
yeah, that's what I was saying. It's neat. It's just like BattleTech is back. So people who are interested in the tabletop, it's coming back more than just being the old style. They're evolving a little bit here and there. So, all right. Next question comes from Chimpasta, who asks, do you feel that CIG over-engineered item recovery from something simple to more complex now, especially considering the crafting is not fully in the game? No, because CIG is not trying to solve the solution of subscriber gear. What they're trying to solve is 3 different solutions in one. They always were going to do item insurance. That was always going to be a thing they wanted to do. And many, many, many players constantly have suggested, hey, can we get a outfit system, what is it called?
Loadout.
A loadout system. Thank you.
Preloadout. Yeah.
A preloadout that we can just have, and then we can just reorder really quickly and get it back to ourselves, so we can, if we die, we can get this back. Maybe even with a timer or whatever. The people have asked for this specific thing for a while, and I know it's a big enough thing because freaking Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 added a loadout system specifically because of this sort of thing, because people want to play different styles, and if you want to play different styles, you want to be able to quickly swap between 2 games, and that game is a lot more like sim based. Well, I guess it's similar to Star Citizen, but people view it as a lot more sim based than Star Citizen, and they already have a quick loadout system. So, the idea of what this is that item recovery is the loadout system, it's the item insurance, and it's the recover your subscriber items. It's all 3 in 1. Is it over-engineered? I think it's actually simplified, because they, instead of just saying, let's build 3 different systems, they say, let's build one system and connect them all together. And just so, like, instead of having your item insurance be separate from your stuff you get from your subscriber gear, it's the same thing. It's just you don't have to pay any extra for your subscriber gear because it's always going to be available. You always have that warranty, so you can get it back. And then the loadout system is part of that system as well. So,
well answered.
yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any suggestions or no? All right.
No notes.
Next question comes from James12, who asks, with CIG Ninja updating the Idris P variant in the PU to not have the railgun and cargo in place of the missile room, do you think they were preparing it for release this year? I didn't hear that they Ninja updated it.
So the idea of it not having the railgun, it was always never going to have the railgun.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. The Idris M was going to have the railgun. And I actually think it never had the missile room either.
Well, the difference is that we haven't seen the P versions like that in game yet. We've only seen the M, and now we're seeing.
As I understand it, they do not have the P version yet.
Apparently, it's in the game now, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
No.
So
no, there's no P version yet.
Still waiting for what the deal is with the squadron version of the Idris.
Oh yeah, because we talked about that last time, and people, the exterior of the squadron of the Stanton is very different from the exterior of the M's that are in the game
not just the Stanton, but also the Idrises that were in the Battle of Vega.
That's what I mean.
Well, they're the same ship in Squadron, yeah, but those are different to what we have in Star Citizen. Yeah. I wonder if the P is actually now the screenshot of the P in game. Okay. I wonder if that actually uses the new model. That would be a good indicator whether they'll update it to the other one as well.
So the same thing happened with the Bengal like 2 years ago, because the Bengal that was flying around at Invictus was not the most up to date version, like what we saw in Squadron. And then when Paul, you probably remember when we were at CitizenCon in LA, they had those guys who made that great big 3D printed one. And everybody's looking at it like, wow, look at that one. That one has like more guns. And the guys had to be cagey about it, but they couldn't come out and say it. But they were saying that this is the updated model that CIG gave us. It isn't the one that's out of date that's in Star Citizen right now. And so,
that would be nice to have, because all the ships that we make at JRDF, we have to pull out of the game. CIG gives us nothing.
Yeah, but I don't think it wasn't. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the verbiage that John Cruz said regarding the Idris is the Idris would launch with Squadron, and not before, and the Javelin would launch after.
Yeah,
I think that's what was said.
Yes, you are. That's what I heard as well.
Yeah. So, and Squadron
like
definitely not this year, so no Idris this year.
Yeah.
But if the Idris P is in game, then we're gonna people are gonna steal it, and It is what it
I
is,
asked.
but-
I know, granted, it was a while ago, but I asked them point blank when I was talking to one of the devs whether or not the Idris P had been finished or started work on, and they kind of laughed. They haven't finished. I might be wrong. I don't want to sit here and be that guy who says I'm right, but they haven't finished the M, and there's no reason to start on the P yet because they're trying to finish Squadron. That's the only reason why they were trying to get the M squared away. I just don't think anybody's even put a thought on the P yet. It may very well be that the P is just, they literally
the P
remove
is
the
the
railgun
one that
and
the vast majority of people have. Only a
agreed.
couple hundred people
But
have the M.
if we're
And
not getting it
so they
until
said,
after Squadron comes out, I still don't think they've started working on it yet. But
well, they would have to if Squadron's coming out next year.
So yeah, I'm looking
And
at the
I think
video
what
right
they'll-
now.
Yeah.
They have
Let's
the
see.
it's at 3 minutes into
Yeah.
that video that I linked in there. Very
Yeah,
specifically.
and I've seen it doesn't have the missile room. It has the additional cargo bay and stuff. But
And it
it's
is it's
something.
still the old model of I'm looking for the exterior.
It's in the link that Dell linked as well. That has the screenshots.
Yeah, and when they
Okay,
when
I'm
they talk
looking,
the
I'm
old.
looking.
It's the old.
the Idris,
Yeah.
isn't even ready and stuff. Like it that was a while ago. That was like 2023. Yeah, and here we are in 2025, and we're a year away from Squadron releasing. And they're not. Oh man, can you imagine the backlash if they release Squadron and the only people who got to start flying around their Idrises were the couple hundred people who have the Idris M?
Yeah.
After
I'd be
John
all right with
Cruz
that.
said
You
that-
ha-
no,
you
no,
have
no. So
one.
let me. I know,
Well,
but let me
No,
back
but
up a little
he
bit.
Said,
So
he said the M, the P, and the K will all come when Squadron releases.
Okay.
really, I
Yep.
don't remember hearing that,
Yeah.
but
And that
that's probably true. That's probably the case. I probably just didn't remember it.
and the Javelin's
the thing,
after, but
I'm just looking at this video right now. If by definition of the Idris P being ready, they literally just changed the stats and removed the railgun,
Mhm.
I could see that. If I like, I'll look through this and see if there's really any big model changes. But the missile room wasn't even finished in the M until very recently.
It was finished this patch.
it wasn't.
It was 4.1 when
Yeah.
it was finished. So
Somebody showed it. And I saw the video of the missile room finally, and I was wondering for years, like this ship is practically done. Why have they waited? Why haven't they finished the missile room on it? And I was gonna try to corner somebody, one of the devs at CitizenCon, and ask them what's the deal with that. But it's finally done.
I think the reason
I don't know.
I think the reason why is because they knew that was going to be the major difference between the P and the M. So they wanted to make sure that both of them were being worked on at the same time. So they had to get a good idea of what.
I actually think it
functions.
has more to do with tech because that missile turret goes inside the ship, and you're supposed to be able to see that the missile's getting loaded into the turret.
That could
And
be
just like
case
the
too.
Caterpillar had
Yeah.
issues with the doors being able to lower, tech issues,
had-
I'm wondering if it was related to that.
By the way, I'll say
Well,
this.
the-
I'm going to
you
plug
have to be
this.
able to bring missiles to that, as
Yeah.
well as you also have to be able to bring cargo to that same space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's a cargo space on the other ship.
Yeah.
I will plug this because I've they're a great content creator, and y'all should watch them as well. If you don't watch the 5-star for their Shadow Patch Notes
Shadow
series,
Patch Notes.
yeah,
Yeah.
they do a great job of that. They
That's
basically
really cool. I've never heard of these guys.
Yeah,
I just subscribed.
he also has a YouTube or a Twitch channel where he live streams as well. So he goes over all of the updates that have not been reported. He goes through, finds other people's reporting on it, finds them himself, and then collates all of them for every patch. So we know exactly what was changed, even if it's not fully there. So the discussion of this episode has already been brought up on Spectrum. What? of our episode? Okay.
Press. All right.
All right.
Opium shills.
Yes. Well, stupid content
Opium.
creators trying to change the game. Gosh, what else? All right. Moving on to the next question. Admiral Kusanagi says, do you think that the lore issue with respawning will eventually put medical gameplay where it needs to be? No. I don't think the current storytelling of regen messing up is going to be part of the is the set. They've even said that it's not. This isn't a lead in to Death of a Spaceman. This is just a different story. They said that last ISC. So It's just a story. It's them trying. I think it's them trying to introduce regen as a concept, so people understand that it's not just you're getting a clone. That this is a complicated process that includes technology we don't understand, that we barely understand, and like that it can screw up and it can have consequences. It's effectively, it was effectively a. Go ahead.
What if this is the glorification of them walking back regen to what was sort of originally intended?
I don't think so. They've already invested too much.
I would absolutely piss myself laughing if this
Well,
was
wait,
the impetus.
spell that out a little bit because I'm not sure I understand.
The original
Walking back to
gameplay
what?
idea was that technology had advanced so much that you could basically hand wave death. Death wasn't as much of an issue, and like when you ejected and you died, you didn't actually die. You were rescued by some random person. You wake up in a hospital.
Well, I'm not talking about that far.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about imprinting at lower tier beds and regenning at lower tier beds.
Oh, okay.
And saying, oh, this is why it's failing. It doesn't work for these low tier beds. You have to go to a tier 1 bed and get this done. Yeah, and we've got all these resources from this event, and we've researched it and everything, and we thought that this could work, but it doesn't work. And now, okay, you can imprint at a tier 3 bed, but the chances of it going fucking catastrophically wrong are this fucking high. It's this high over a tier 3 bed or a tier 2 bed, and essentially undermining the Nursa commercial tragedy.
Yeah. That is still, people are still claiming that's the case now, but no, this is them introducing the concepts to people because most people don't know what it is. They call it cloning rather than calling it regen. They call it a lot of different things. They still call it respawn. They don't really know what it is. I think this is them trying to tell a story to introduce it properly to players who don't know what it is, to go, yeah, it's a technology we have no clue about. We stole it from the Vanduul, and it sort of works. We don't know why it works, but it works. So we use it. Kind of like we're playing with fire and we don't know what we're doing. And that's the whole like storyline they're telling is that process. So
the game does a terrible job of telling new players that you can move your imprint and respawn somewhere else.
Yes.
Like and people or people don't even know that when you respawn, it's due to regen, and that's how you ended up there. People don't read that, and so they don't know anything about that mechanic because it's barely a mechanic at this point, and so now it's almost force feeding it to more people. But
yeah, I hate it, but there has to be a lore dump when you first start the game.
There doesn't necessarily have to be a lore dump, but there definitely has to be some handholding. There has to be something where somebody comes along and says, "Looks like you're awake."
Player experience player experience needs to, like, would it make sense to only start explaining what the medical gameplay is after you die the first time? And
they kind of had that. Remember, they used to have a doctor and a nurse that would come up to you and say, you're just waking up. You might have some fogginess from your regeneration. That would have been the perfect opportunity. They got rid of it because it was obvly not working well, I guess.
Because NPCs doing what they're supposed to do at the correct time at the correct location is still a hurdle that CIG has not cracked.
Yeah.
They're getting better.
That would be a great mechanism to use to introduce the technology right then and there.
There is a full, like, I was walking around and watching how there are multiple NPCs who have completely changed their idle animations. I saw a guy who looked weird because he was pointing a multi-tool at a ATM. He was shooting his multi-tool at the ATM, and I was like, "Are you trying to break in there, buddy?" And I was trying to record it to make fun of it, but then he he looked at his thing. He holstered his stuff. He pulled out a data pad, walked up closer to it, tapped some things in the data pad, nodded, put the data pad away, turned and walked away. Like, it was like, I have never seen that behavior before. I've seen them just do random pull out and shoot at things, but I've never really seen them do a full animation loop and then walk away and do all those sorts of things. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great when it works, but half the time it doesn't work. Just today, I went to one of those gun shops and had the person who's at the counter, fiddling with their computer. They were like facing the wall and doing that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it still was janky because like they were like stuttering and stuff like that, but All right. I think Stakeru then also asked a similar question. With the Revival Crisis event, do you think this is a hint that the Apollo is coming out? I'm sorry, I'm having major copia. No, the Apollo, the likelihood of the Apollo coming out is because they showed it off in one of the silhouettes, and they've actively said that it's in development in the monthly report.
We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it teased like we've seen the Perseus. Though.
Yeah. And what Jared said very specifically about that after the fact was, what was said is, this is what they're working on in the next 12 months. It does not. None of those ships are stated to release in the next 12 months. It just said these are some of these ships that we're working on over the next 12 months. It doesn't mean that they intend to release them, although I'm sure plenty of them will get released. But it just means that they are going into production in the next 12 months, or are already in production during that period. So
we got 2 of them already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got a lot of them. So some of those were like the Guardian, the Tracker, the Ghost, the medical terrapin,
2 Hornets, yeah.
Then it was also the
as whatever the Argo thingy.
Yeah, one was the Misfortune.
Yeah.
So there was a couple in there.
Yeah.
One of them wasn't the Golem.
My memory was good enough to go back 1 week when we discussed this.
When we literally discussed this a week ago, yeah. Plug, watch the show. If I remember to put it at exactly 1 hour and 10, 11 minutes, right above Darsh's head, where you can go watch the last week's show. We talked about it.
Would be better if you were more well rested.
I've joked about CIG adding a rest XP bonus into Star Citizen before, like as a joke, but like that's kind of what the idea of being less tired as a result, or more stamina and stuff.
If you sleep in a bed, your gains towards your skills are better.
Yes.
You
have more. You're not as tired, not as hungry, not as thirsty as quickly. You have better stamina.
You can build up your strength faster over the next
unless the skill you're trying to train is staying awake. Then.
All right, Blazrad asks, do you think introducing features like player hubs or player bases will reduce the friction? We all know fashion and player housing are the true end game. Yeah, I mean those will reduce friction, but there's no point in having player housing if you can't also spawn at your base.
Yeah, I think that I would imagine that is the intent, to be able to spawn at your base. And absolutely that could reduce friction, because if you give the player agency to build a base of some sort near where they are frequenting, that is a process that gives them the chance to reduce the friction. So in other words, if I'm going to be exploring around a certain planet, I'm going to be mining there a lot, or I'm looking for certain minerals or whatever. If I build a base there, that's my ability to go in and say, okay, I want to make sure that I can come back and log in close to this spot frequently, because I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff here. Then, absolutely.
It's just like the whole quantum travel thing. It's if you both increase the number of locations where you can log out, or if necessary respawn, but also shorten the travel time in between where you were playing and where those locations are. That's a huge win in terms of player friction. And part of that is just been the limitations of not having server meshing, and so we were limited on how many locations we could put in the game. But eventually we're going to have those things. Eventually a landing zone is going to be filled with a gazillion different locations, and you're not going to have to go all the way to the fucking spaceport from your hab. It's just more options, more better.
Yeah. I've always kind of said this. Chris went through a lot of trouble to make an enormous universe here, but now he has to find a way to shrink it. And what I mean by that is find a way for players to collect and have conflict in this large expanse that they've got. Find a reason for them to collect in one space, because if everybody's really that spread out, we'll never see each other. You have to have a reason for them to kind of collect and find other game mechanics to make the distances become less of a deterrent to playing the game, like we've been talking about a lot.
As much as people hate it, that's the Align and Mine system. The Hathor missions are 100% that.
The events at a very specific or one or a few very specific locations are that. But getting people to those locations quickly is the other half of the equation, yes, which was discussed in the previous show. You can find the link.
It'll be right up there, So for those of you, the reason why the YouTube chat doesn't show up because I forgot to hit a button at the right time. So I can still see YouTube chat, but it's just not.
I saw one person at the very beginning of the show from YouTube chat in this widget of yours, but I guess that was from
the pre-show on the channel. So I just forgot to hit the right, because what I have to do is I have to set it up. I have to then turn it off on Restream, and then I have to turn it back on Restream for the captain's table. And then I have to start the stream. If I start the stream and then try to change it on Restream, it doesn't want to do it live. So it's like, no, but your engram idea. Do you mean adding a bioprint depuff? I don't know what you're talking about when you talk about engram. I don't know what that means.
I think that is the terminology from Altered Carbon.
Okay.
But I talked to you about your innie and your outie today as well, but you didn't get that reference because you just don't watch any TV show.
Yeah.
So that was an idea I had, like into connection with agent smithing. This one.
The idea you have different. I know enough about the plot of Severance to know that it has to do with like that sort of splitting yourself into two different people sort of things.
Your outie supports citizens for prosperity, and that is a thing that you're not going to understand just because that is a very deep, very tiny little thing. It's not a major plot point. All
right. So Big Worm J asks, Anvil Paladin on ILW. Thoughts? I don't think so. We haven't seen any updates beyond the concept ship. So and it's
and we would have seen it teased. So Perseus is much more likely.
It could be a surprise. If the Paladin's not that physically different, or is an offshoot of the Valkyrie, maybe that might make it easier for them to craft up and release, and might be some low hanging fruit for them. Maybe
it's
I don't know my breath.
It is much more different than, let's say, the Hornet variants are different from each other, because that is primarily just like the center module that's different. This is like, it kind of looks like it. It has the cockpit and the engines, but all the other geometry is in some way different.
It's Anvil, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they got the kit bash stuff, so I don't know.
We didn't see anything on the golem, and it appeared out of thin air. Yeah, but the golem is the size of an Aurora. And
it is literally pieced together from other Drake parts.
Yeah.
Speaking of kit bashing,
the Paladin was sold last. Was that CitizenCon or was it at ILW? I think it was at ILW, or not an ILW. IAE. It was sold in November, so like 6 months ago. We don't know how far along it is beyond the concept. And it usually takes CIG anywhere between 9 and 18 months to produce a ship. So, and I think that's a little bit bigger.
Size. Yeah.
So, usually that size is usually a little bit longer than 9 months. So, all right. Next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who says, hypothetical, you're running a bounty mission and chase down your mark in Atmo over nowhere on some moon. He gets the better of you, and you have to eject and land safely because of your jump jet parachute. Should you be able to log out there and log back in without consequences after you've arranged for a pickup offline? Yes and no. There should be a consequence, but that consequence should be a combat timer. We already have that now, and that should persist. That you have to find a safe place.
Depends on how close to a copium nest you land.
Yeah. or if that bounty hunter now, or that you're a bounty hunter and now their mark knows that you've ejected, goes down to find you and shoot you. Like that's you if you don't log out in a safe space, then they find you, you're dead.
Right.
So
That actually sounds like a lot of fun. Like, you're descending down and you're looking for places to hide. Like it's
Yeah.
you're like seer training essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But what about the hunger, thirst, and limited oxygen? I mean, that's where the gameplay comes in. It's like gameplay features would be would always trump that, because if you just say, oh well, no, now you persist there, and now you're forcing a player who may have to log out because of time constraints, or what happens if power goes out? Your power goes out right after that happens. Are you just screwed? Like, you're just going to sit there and die? That's not a fun gameplay mechanic. So there's going to be some limitations with that. This isn't Rust. I don't think you're going to have a persistent body wherever you log out. You just flop over and you're just there now. Or what happens if you do that and then you suddenly get called off to work and you're stuck in work for the next week? You're just going to show up dead because you managed to escape them. That's seer training. You managed to escape them and get away. Now you're dead because you didn't have enough water or oxygen. So you circumvented all those survival mechanics. If you have somebody to pick you up, they're still gonna have to come find you and pick you up at a certain point. You're gonna have to log in. You'll still have to deal with those issues. And if they're not there right away, then you're dead.
Yeah, that works.
There's so many edge cases that CIG is aware of that all of us maybe, just are like subconsciously aware of on the fringes of somewhere, but definitely not all of them. Which is the reason why
that's true.
It's taking so long.
I would love to be able to pick somebody's brain to hear them, because that's exactly the issue. We in the community think of these cool ideas because we'd love to see them, but the developers, I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt. They obviously have insights into the underlying troubles with an approach. Like, what are the blockers? What are the things the edge cases that could come up that would make this unfair and not workable? And I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear some of those discussions, because it's
Yeah. Sherry says, "Is you aware of them though? Whenever some stuff gets added, they only seem to know the most basic abuses." I will quote Jared when I say all of the conversations that we have had are stuff that CIG has already had 2 weeks earlier. It's likely that somebody has already brought up all of those edge cases, because if we come up with it, they know it. It's just they discuss it. Somebody at CIG says it's not worth the hassle. Well, let's see if what happens, or goes, nah, it's not much of an issue, ignores it, moves on, and then if it becomes an issue, they go back and fix it. I think people often think of
accommodate all edge cases. You never get anything done.
No.
Yeah, but it's not the fact that they aren't aware of it. It's they're not aware of the potential severity or how often they would actually come up when they're designing a feature like that. I'm sure that some of them has had the idea that this edge case is going to happen, but is it going to happen 1 in a million times or 1 every 100 times?
Yeah.
So
is it within the development of this feature, or is it fixed within the development of a different feature? Do we delay this in order to wait for that and not get the feedback on it?
Yeah. And I say a team of 100 developers won't find all the edge cases that the 10K degenerate gamers will. True, there will be some extreme, but but most of the ones that people find, they're not extreme. They're like people like they figured out what it was and how to make it. But I'm sure that was something that CIG discovered, or somebody put in a bug report and they said but how often can you repeat it? Oh, every so often. And then what the gamers have done is discovered exactly how to repeat it exactly, versus that one person.
And that's the thing. And the minute one person finds it, then everybody learns. Everybody learns how to do it.
Like, I'm not going to talk to you about how the Geo is absolutely deadly in combat. It is an almost instant kill in combat. Both you can, first off, you can jump on people. If you jump, you could land on them and they die instantly. You just can crush them with your mech. And on top of that,
your dream of stompy robots has finally come true.
On Friday, I was jumping around like a stupid idiot. I was just boosting my way around a Hathor facility, and every time an NPC would show up, I would just be like, womp, and they'd be dead. Just wave my laser towards them and they'd be dead. But I'm not going to tell CIG specifically how the laser can be killed, how the laser can be super deadly, because it's not the way you think. It's a really, really weird thing you can do with a laser to make it be absolutely deadly. I'm going to make them figure that out because I want to kill people with that thing. And because until you can give me the Titan suit, that is my
We need to be able to like do fisticuffs.
Give me melee, and I will tell you, CIG. Turn the melee on, and I'll tell you.
It's an adult Malachar, and
Paul, Paul, I need you to do that meme that so you can screenshot it.
You get bug fix. I get melee. In return, I get melee. Don't tell Zach. No one shows this to Zach. All right, next question comes from Greg Ixon, who asks, how far, despite it being the new quote-unquote feature, is the social module is that they showed at CitizenCon? Orbital Assault is good for group gameplay and such a feature would benefit from the activity. We know in the monthly report, they mentioned that they started working on some of those features already. So the last monthly report is very big because it's basically, remember how everyone was like, well, we're not going to get features this year. Basically, CIG said bet and put their gameplay, their core gameplay thing is like 2 pages long, and it's all completed X.
People thought that we weren't getting features and that they weren't going to be working on features this year. All it says is that you listened to someone else who didn't actually listen to what they said.
Yeah.
It was in no uncertain terms did they say that, and that's what drove me effing nuts, because then they go on to tell us how they're working on features. It's like,
well, so one of the things that stood out to me, Jared specifically said, or somebody wrote in one of the posts addressing the bug fix path, is that they were going to start releasing features in tech previews.
Yeah.
So that, in other words, they were going to continue to work on patch releases, and they were going to have the normal flow and stick with trying to get the bugs fixed. But they were only going to release the new gameplay mechanics in tech previews that were separate from those other builds, so that we could play them separately, test them, and go through the effort
of
checking them out, but not interfering with everybody's ability to play normal games, the normal games on the PTU.
Well, because the last monthly report, they had crafting is done, base building is done. Everything we saw in crafting and base building at CitizenCon is in-game, but they use developer UI. So the crafting system is all jank as hell, but it's there. You can craft something. You can build a base from beginning, middle to end. It's jank, but it's in the game. The scanning system is still working its way through. Engineering is working its way through. Maelstrom is working its way through. And the social UI stuff is being worked on. So
but that is all we've seen, live demos of. But the social module that they showed off, that was just a slideshow of Photoshop.
Yeah, but it's as of the last month report, it's no longer just Photoshop mockups. It's now actually being implemented.
Sure, but is it Dev UI that is working on?
It's or the UI team was scheduled off to work on it. So the UI, the actual UI team.
So the functionality, so the functionality should be about done if the UI team is being tasked to prettify it.
We don't know, but they definitely said that the UI team is being working on it. So
considering what it is, they kind of have to work in tandem. It's not just like the devs finish it and then UI team goes off, because even with Dev UI, you want to have someone from the UI team telling you about flow.
Yeah.
Not just the way how it looks and all the drawables and everything.
Now, does that mean everything's going to be done this year? Maybe. Does it mean it's going to be done next patch? No. I would not expect any of those features to be in Star Citizen in the next couple of months, simply because the focus currently is getting the mission system to fucking work, getting the old missions back into the game, and what was the other one? Probably the issues of calling your ship and the elevators, the cargo elevators. All of those need to be functioning better than they currently are, and that's really their focus. But they're still working on all those features in the back end. It's just those features may take a little bit longer because Elliot might go, hey, UI guy who's working on the social module, I need you here to fix this problem right now. And so they get pulled over, and now they're working on that instead of the social module for a couple of weeks. So yeah.
And instead of a feature getting tested in Evo and then PTU for like a month or so leading up to the next quarter patch, it's going to get tested for a whole quarter or more leading up to
6 months probably.
patch release.
Yeah.
That is one of the things I think they need to do in order to keep the bugs from getting into the main branch. If they really want to clean up the main branch and make it solid, they have to make these new game features really solid before they integrate them.
CIG knows that they need more QA. They don't have more QA. They have lots of us. So guess what?
Yeah,
we're going to do more QA work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the elevators that you mentioned, do you think would it be easier for them to just go into a hangar and go to an unused section of the wall and put another door that says garage on it instead of trying to make the freight elevator work as a vehicle garage?
Possibly. But I think that's also adding too much. It's adding more work than it needs to be. I think the whole purpose of adding vehicles into the garage or into the
freight
elevators is because they wanted to try to simplify it as much as possible to try to tie them back into each other. Because they could just add a separate bit of the hangar that just goes down and then comes back up, and it's just vehicles.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of curious to know what the complication is there. Why is spawning a vehicle item any harder?
I did talk to somebody at CIG, and they specifically mentioned it's because the vehicles they have to turn the vehicles into an item. So they have to turn the vehicles into an item. When they're not items, they're vehicles. So they have to turn them into items, and then they have to spawn them into the freight elevators. And so when the elevator comes back, and then have to turn them into
so they show up in the inventory.
They want these things to be able to be spawned and utilized within the universe as well.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is with an elevator at a location and be like, okay, you need this for this mission.
Because then you would need another separate elevator, and it just takes up real estate that could be used somewhere else, or maybe it's a compact location that just doesn't have the capacity for it.
And they can turn them into spawn closets, monster closets.
I really do wonder why Daria's idea of the garage isn't better then, because it does seem like they wouldn't have to change the process of how the elevator works and just spawn a new vehicle in the garage.
That's a good question. I don't know.
And open the door.
I think it probably has to do with some other aspects. Like I said, like maybe a monster closet as well, where you can like raise up the freight elevator, and now suddenly there's a tank there, which already has people in it, because the people are not vehicles. They're registered as similar as the items. So it's just easier for them to just be there. So But we'll see, because the one thing that was new as of like a couple of days ago is Chad McKinney is no longer working for CIG since CIG LA shut down. So and he was the one who was working on that. So we don't know if
really.
He and I talked about
he was a big one. He was involved in a lot of stuff.
One thing they could also do is you go to the cargo elevator terminal, and you hit a button up top that switches it from cargo to vehicles.
I mean, these are solutions that could happen.
Solutions to a problem that CIG has probably already thinking about 2 weeks before we are.
Yeah.
They probably figured it out. It's just a matter of implementing it.
It's just resources probably.
The work to implement it.
Yeah.
Well,
they have a list a mile long.
Go Tree.
Do they want it to be dual purpose for the transport of vehicles for missions? And because when you deliver cargo, it disappears, it goes into the ether, you have transported that cargo, it completes the mission. Is it easier to make that work for the freight elevator versus having a different elevator in order to make the vehicle disappear that you transported with your C2 or whatever?
Because that would also make sense for being able to transport smaller, because if you can turn vehicles into items, you can turn ships into items, and if you can turn ships into items, you may be able to transport smaller ships on, say, like a C2 or something like that as part of a mission.
As part of a job,
or a hull C for even for player missions, like you contract someone. Can you transport my 100i from Everest to Seraphim, and then you don't want the players takes that mission.
You don't want players to be able to fly the ships. You just want them to transport it. So they're just boxes, basically. They're but you still want them to be able to like to have that transition in and out sort of thing. So yeah.
You need to pay me. I brought this tank here, this Nova tank here. You used it first.
Yeah.
It's full of holes.
Read your contract. All right. All right. So we've got 3 questions left. Steve the Dancer asks, do you think that your first spawn from a patch can only be in lawful systems? They can always move to unlawful systems. No, you can do that right now. You can spawn in.
Or maybe should be.
I
think
eventually that's where we're going to be, but not anytime soon. They said quite specifically they want you to drift. So for your initial spawn, they want you to drift into lawlessness.
Yes.
And so I don't think you're going to be able to wake up and say, I'm a bad guy. I am spawning at Ruin Station. But I do think that there's going to be nothing that will keep you from saying, I'm going to wake up and I'm a bad guy and I'm going to head over there and consequences be damned. But that's something that the lore team and something they talked about very specifically is if you want to go, eventually be the super bad guy that lives and works in Pyro or Nexus or, Cathcart or whatever, all right.
You're going to have to work toward that.
Yeah. But you don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to go to Compton and be a Blood or a Crip.
Yeah, it requires a lot more work. Yeah.
You sounded exactly like you were running out of air in the game. That's so funny. Put your helmet on.
No.
So they got the soundbite.
No. But conversely, do you think there should be like a super good part of the system that you are prohibited to during the initial spawn that you have to work towards to gain access to?
Yeah, of course.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like the UEE or the advocacy or something like that, working as a contractor for the advocacy, probably won't get access.
There
to
should be so much of UEE space where you can't just fly into this section of space because it's UEE government property.
That's why I've been saying for a long time that like Sol or Earth specifically is not going to be what people think it is. People are like, oh, well,
that's what I meant. Yeah,
it's so
when you're a base citizen, you don't have access to Earth because you have to get reputation up.
Yeah, and well, you could probably have access to Earth. But it's like you're not landing at Earth. You're going to the station, and then you're going to take the
Welcome
the
to
ferry.
what air traffic control is going to be in Star Citizen.
Yeah.
You won't get to fly anywhere and everywhere like it's some sort of free open sandbox. The entire universe isn't a sandbox.
Yeah.
A large portion of it is, not everything. And
that's a cool way to deal with
air
it.
traffic control is not going to let you fly in there.
And that would be a good way to deal with it.
And they'll dispatch.
We had dispatch multiple. They didn't go well.
Yeah.
They were before their time. It's gonna come back. That's how the way the world works right fucking now.
I still believe
I
in
live in the
tunnels.
back of an airplane every shift.
Yeah.
Approach tunnels. Yeah.
I still believe in approach tunnels. I think they're coming back. I think they're just not going to be like auto correct you, but I think those are going to come back. So
they'll just shoot you down.
Yeah, that's what I said. They'll just send hornets to come chase you down and kill you. Like you're just going to get
There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it turning you around. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how ATC would evolve from what we have now. If you want to enter this airspace, you have to give us access. You can follow this landing spline, this approach path, just like we do it now. And if you deviate, okay, well then we're going to, turn your ship around and you're going to get a fine.
Yeah.
That's
well,
it.
That's for public, like civilian or citizen sort of systems. But the more military you go, the less it goes from rerouting you to basically just using ground railguns to just shoot the sky.
It's cheaper to just kill you. Welcome to Castro. Like fuck around and find out.
You are going off the map. You have 10 seconds to turn around, otherwise you will be engaged.
Maverick's got it right. In Elite Dangerous, if you deviate in 1 second, you're obliterated.
You're trespassing. You immediately the only response to trespassing in Elite is violence, is instant death.
Vaporize it.
You did not you did not request landing. The ATC has now decided you are not.
Kill you.
It's so comical to me when people say, "Well, what about my immersion? How come I can't just just fly around like that. What's immersive about that? That's not how the world works.
You want a good up close and personal experience, especially in the United States. If you decided to just fly where you want to, and you're gonna get a nice
Mar-a-Lago.
you're gonna get a nice escort from the Air National Guard really quick about what's going on.
Very fucking quickly, and that's right now.
You're going to find out how quickly the
into...
F-14s will find you, or F-16s will find you and escort you back down to where you need to go.
Yeah, you think you're going to be able to approach high-class airspace, which would be any major landing zone in Star Citizen, and just do what you want?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You're high.
All right. Next question is from Maverick69, who asks, if you're indeed starting to see the beginnings of the road to the death of a spaceman, what lore-related events do you want to see happen between now and the eventual release, like the current narrative in 4.1 loading screen, to make it more relative to players? Like I said, I think that this current event is the narrative reveal for players, so players know what it is. But I also think we need to have some sort of narrative reveal of replacement limbs,
medical tier 1.
Yeah, that medical process, and it needs to be explained in a way that makes sense to players. So
instead of a mining focus patch, it's a medical gameplay focus patch, because there's some sort of major event that requires a lot of medical support, and you have to bring medical supplies, and you have to go rescue people, and blah blah blah. Provide medical, provide combat escorts and such.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, you run out of the goo that regens, everybody and regrows their limbs, and you have to start, doing the field medic thing, or just attaching like a cybernetic arm or a leg to him, and then
I think there's a story there where you are again. It really depends on how CIG wants to do the story. I still think that the way that CIG should approach the story of Star Citizen is through factions and characters who represent those factions, and then those characters become the focus. Or we're like, if you think of the advocacy. Or the CDF, you think of Dooley, because Dooley right now is already kind of the face of the CDF for most players. If you think about Ninetales, we should have a Ninetales representative who you always know who that person is. And so when you think Ninetales, oh, it's that, so that way you can kind of connect those representatives with the factions, and then that sort of thing. So one of the faction members has to get a cybernetic, or has a cybernetic, and explains the situation, or that kind of thing. That sort of process where you can see, oh, that's the consequences of getting shot in the face. Now he's got an eye that looks kind of funky. Rudo was a Ninetales. He's like an independent contractor. So he's an info broker. So he takes information and works with a lot of people, including the Ninetales. So, all right. Last question is from Citizen Dance, who says, when you've taken a land claim and there's an inevitable wipe before 1.0, do you think land claims will be the fourth wipe category? AUEC, rep, items, and land claims? Yes. I hate to say this, but I don't think land claims are going to survive even one patch. I think they're going to be a consistent wipe until CIG has an idea of what they're doing it. So they'll release it and be like, land claims are out, and everyone's going to go run off and try to claim their land. And then within like a month, it's just going to get gone. It's just going to be wiped off of the whole thing. And everyone's like, but I just spent all this time. It's like alpha.
Yeah.
I
don't know. The only caveat to that could be the ability to progress enough in base building to test the features fully.
Yes.
So like if they wipe it between each patch, are they ever going to get to a point where they test some of these larger structures that you'd want to build? I don't know.
Maybe I think they'll do that in an EPTU. That would be my guess. I mean, that's what I would do, is have them tested in over the course of like half a year in EPTU before you actually do anything, so players can practice it and play with it and have access to it without any consequences. But if they screw up, it's like, well, it's EPTU. It's going to get wiped eventually anyways. So
yeah, I tell you, I cannot wait for base building, because I think that is going to change the game fundamentally, on a very grand scale.
I think so as well.
It's going to give people a purpose, all the stuff that you're going to need to do to be able to build a base, gathering resources. It basically ties everything together. So I can't wait.
All right. That's the last question. A little bit longer than the question than the discussion session, but it wasn't bad. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Make sure you check out Darj at darionator.com or jrdf.sc. We're with all of the different models and stuff like that. Check out Radar, My Radar, if you want to see Andy's work. It's a really good program that I heavily suggest using. And of course, check out Tree0311 on twitch.tv/0311, Tree0311, and of course, youtube.com/Tree011. Are you going live right now, Tree, after this, or?
No. What time is it now? Like 2.5 hours from now.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So that if you're gonna go live, I was gonna drop it right over your direction. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. But yeah, well, it'll be. I guess it's 10 p.m. EST.
Okay. Yeah. So make sure to check it out. Pathfinders podcast. What's the topic this week?
We are just doing what we call sit reps, situation reports. So just taking a look at some of the game development updates, status of things, like kind of we talked about the quantum travel, some of the dev statements, taking a look at that new ship systems guide that came out, which is kind of why I think engineering not too far in the distant future. Yeah.
Oh, I just realized that the first JRDF stream of 2025 is going to happen in exactly 2 weeks at exactly the same time you stream, Paul.
In 2 weeks? Let me see.
Yeah.
So April 12th?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll just not stream on that day.
Or you could do a watch party.
Yeah. I'll just let you just stream. Like there's going to be days where I'm going to take days off, so I can, that'll be fine.
No. Don't, you can't do that.
No day off.
No day off for you.
Back to work.
Thank you.
You sleep on the floor of your office.
Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this, please make sure you follow us on youtube.com/theastropub. Make sure if you're watching this after the fact, make sure you like the video, subscribe for more content like this. It really does help out. We're trying to make that way. As of right now, let's see. We are currently sitting at 845 subscribers. So we're only about 155 subscribers away from the limit that I need for applying for partnership on YouTube. So if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe.
By the way, Paul, YouTube has this thing. So at least on desktop, if you have to say the exact words, subscribe, smash the like button, and hit the bell. If somebody hasn't done that, the little buttons are going to glow below the video.
Yeah, they'll have the things. It's also mobile. I think it happens on mobile too. Where if you
mobile as well. Yeah, I think it was mobile first. Yeah, but yeah, it was very surprising to me the first time I saw that.
So it's neat. So if you saw the sparkles when Dar said that, make sure you hit those. And of course,
and make sure you comment about it. If it actually worked.
Yes, that's a good idea.
I want to see that. Yeah.
And of course, leave any comments down below about anything we talked about. And if you
just the
glow thing. And if you want a more lightweight version of this, I do an audio version of it that I upload on Spotify, which goes to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, just a bunch of different places. And it will be I've been late on it recently, but it should be releasing on Mondays. So I usually release those on Mondays in the morning. So like around 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. Eastern. So check that out if you get a chance to. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.